Well, hello, Matt Johnson over at SFREP. Thanks for stopping by. Really appreciate it. I know you got a lot going on, and so it's always nice when you guys stop by and attend one of our webinars. So what we're going to be talking about today is going to be an introduction to Appraise-It Pro. And I've done this webinar quite a bit, but it's always good to do it. And it's always good to kind of see you guys, all your questions, and hopefully get y'all to start moving over to Pro. I know that there's a lot of hesitation because it's something new and nobody wants to learn something new, but trust me, it's a great product. I think you're going to eventually, when you get master it, you're going to be really happy with it. The cool thing is that you can install Appraise-It Pro onto your computer and it can sit there side by side with Appraise-It Classic. So you can move over at your own pace. That's the big thing that I want to convey, is that you can move over to Appraise-It Pro at your own pace. It can be side by side in your computer. It's not, when you install it, you're not going to have to immediately start moving it. Everything that you do in Appraise-It Classic, you can bring it over to Appraise-It Pro. You can open up your Appraise-It Classic files in Appraise-It Pro. You can also even move backwards from Appraise-It Pro back to Appraise-It Classic. If you run into any problems, you're worried about not being able to finish an appraisal in Appraise-It Pro, you run into a roadblock, you can always take it and go back to Appraise-It Classic. So there's really no reason. It doesn't cost anything extra as long as you're on the Appraise-It subscription plan. So there's really no reason for you not to go ahead and install Appraise-It Pro and try it out. And hopefully, because you're in this webinar today, you are interested in learning a little more about it. So that is what we are going to do today. Now, as always, if you have any questions about Appraise-It Pro, you can feel free to email me directly, training@sfrep.com. You can use that if you are watching this webinar after the fact. Then by all means, go ahead and reach out to me if you have any questions, training@sfrep.com. Of course, if you need immediate assistance, you will want to email tech@sfrep.com for our tech support. You can also, of course, call them 7 days a week at 800-644-4051. Now, if you've never done one of these webinars on YouTube, or if you're not very familiar with YouTube, a couple of things. Along the bottom, there is going to be a small bracket icon, like 2 brackets together. That's going to make the video go full screen. Now, that will aid you in being able to see everything a little bit better, but you will lose the chat, because if you have any questions, you will want to use that chat. It is going to be over on the right-hand side of the screen over there, unless you put YouTube into what they call theater mode, which is the elongated rectangle down at the bottom. If you click on that, then the chat will move down to the bottom. So just keep all of that in mind. Now, if you're on mobile, or if you're on an iPad or some other tablet or some other phone, then that's a little bit different. The chat should be side by side with you, and it really depends on which way you orient the device. So you'll figure all that out. But if you're on the desktop version, look for the brackets to go full screen, elongated rectangle to put YouTube into theater mode. All right. So let's go ahead and we will crank up Appraise-It Pro. Now, you're not going to see the splash screen. That actually shows up on my other monitor, which you can't see right now. But in just a second, Appraise-It Pro will pop up here. And I just installed Appraise-It Pro, so it may be a little bit laggy. There we go. Okay. I just installed a new update to it. Okay, so when you first start the program, you're going to be in an area that Microsoft and our developers call the backstage. And the backstage is essentially a super file menu. You can think of it that way. I even like to call it that because I don't think the backstage, well, I mean, the backstage is a little bit easier to say, but really think of it as a super file menu. Now I'll show you why. If I click on the little arrow up here in the upper left-hand corner, it will jump back to the main editing area of Appraise-It Pro. And of course, I don't have a report open right now. But you can see, to get back to the backstage, I'm going to click on the little file menu up here. And you'll notice that the file menu is set apart from the other menu selections by having the black background. So that right there tells you that's something special. So if you click on that, it'll take you back to this backstage. Now in the backstage, you have a bunch of menu selections over here on the left, and then whatever you've selected will be over here on the right. Now currently, when we first start the program, we are in the welcome area, the welcome screen. And this is, as long as you're online, this will always be up to date. This is a way for us to communicate with you, tell you things that are important without having to send out a broadcast email or call you or anything like that. We don't update it too often. You can see the last time this was updated was back in October of 2023. We did actually update it sooner than that, but it was back when ACI was having some issues, and so a lot of our users who were trying to use the ACI Sky portals were having issues, but we didn't want to confuse people, so we removed that. So we do update it when we need to, and then we'll generally update it every month or two, maybe every 3 months. Next is going to be the new menu selection, and this is just like File New and Appraise-It Classic. So when you want to start a new file, you'll come into New, and here you'll have a list of all of the different report types, just like you did in Appraise-It Classic. You'll have a frequently used, and then we'll have all of our different categories here. And of course, I can search for something. So if I'm looking for, let's say, a 2055, it will show me all of the 2055s that are available. And of course, a report type can show up, a form type can show up in more than one category. So you can see it's currently showing up here under frequently used, also under UAD, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. We have non-lender versions. Those are the ones, for doing estate appraisals and things like that. And of course, we have the legacy forms. The legacy forms are just in there for backwards compatibility. There are a couple of people that I think still use them for various things, but they're mainly just in there so that you can open up your old report types, and it has a framework to load all that data into. So if we want to see everything else, we just click on the little X up here, and now we're back to seeing everything again. And let's say you never do non-lender work. So if you don't want to see it in the listing here, you can click on this little triangle here, and that will collapse it so that you don't have to worry about seeing it again. But by default, they'll all be open for you. And more than likely, you will probably just select from this frequently used section most of the time. Now, when I click on something to select it, you'll see here I'm doing the 1004. It's going to show me all of my templates over here on the right. Templates basically replace skeletons. They do the same thing, and they are a direct replacement for skeletons. However, they are much easier to create, and they are way easier to maintain and update than skeletons were. Essentially what a skeleton is it's just a regular report file that has been promoted to template status. So you could open up a blank default 1004, add and subtract forms to it, which we'll get to later because that's a key difference between Pro and Classic. It's the way that you build your reports and when you build them. But you could basically, customize your report every way you want to. Add images to it, add additional text. You can put a seal in it, signatures, whatever you want to do. And then you just go up and you save it as a template. I'll show you how to do that later. But then it's going to show up here. So if I wanted to open up my Charlotte template, maybe I've created these templates based on the town that I'm appraising in. You may want to do it for the different lenders, for different situations, whatever it is. And I can just double click here and it will open up that template, and I can go ahead and get started from there. Now, down here at the bottom is going to be a little checkbox for include suggested forms in the default template. By default, that's going to be checked, and you will mostly want it to be checked. And the suggested forms it's going to include are going to be mostly addenda, things like extra comp pages, image pages, maps, flood maps, things like that they're just going to be included. Now, this only applies when you're selecting the default template. And if I'm over here and I double click here without selecting a template, it's going to open up that default template. All right. Next is going to be the open selection. So we're going to go over all of these. I'm not going to go over these because you can see they're grayed out right now. And the reason they're grayed out is because I don't have a report open. These are duplicated in the main menu section. So I'm not really going to go over them here. But the next one on the list is going to be open. Open, you may not use all that much. Usually if you're going to be using it, it's going to be coming in here to open up a recent report. This can be very handy. It's going to basically show the last 20 reports or so. And that can be really handy because if it's only been a day or two, maybe up to a week since you've opened up a report, it's much quicker to just come in here and find it in the list and open it up rather than going and doing a search, which you can do as well. And I'll show you how to do that. But this can sometimes be quicker, especially if you're still working on a report over multiple days. It's just easier to come in here to open it up. You can also open up a regular report manually by clicking here to browse to it. You can also open up a classic report if you want to browse to it manually, but you do not have to open it up here. You can actually search for it in the search, which is the replacement for the file index, because Appraise-It Pro is going to index all of your reports, whether they are classic or pro reports. It'll also index Mismo XML reports. So if you're coming over from another software, you'll be able to take all those archived Mismo XMLs, put them in a subfolder, and it'll index those as well. But you can open them up here, and then you can also open up a Mismo document manually as well. This can be really handy if you have a colleague or a friend who uses another software type and they want to share a report with you. They can just send you the Mismo XML version of it, and then you can open up that Mismo document very easily. There's also a template section to open up a template and open up a classic skeleton. You will probably never use open up template, but it's there if you want to open up a template manually. However, open up skeleton can be very handy for you because we are not automatically going to convert. We convert almost everything over from Appraise-It Classic into Appraise-It Pro when you first run it after installing it. One of the things we don't convert are all of your old skeletons. And the reason for that is in testing, we found that most appraisers did not want all of their old files or their old skeletons to be converted over automatically. What they really want is, or what we found, because the reason that they didn't want that to happen, that they told us, was that it was bringing over a lot of junk skeletons, old skeletons, out-of-date stuff. So what we recommend you do is create new templates from scratch for 2 reasons. One, you're going to start with a really clean slate of really clean, nice, up-to-date templates. And in creating those templates, you are going to learn Appraise-It Pro very fast. It's just a great way to teach you how to use it. Now, we do understand you may have some skeletons in Appraise-It Classic that were really complex. You don't want to have to retype or copy and paste all that stuff over again. So we do give you the option to open up a classic skeleton. That will open it up as if it is just a regular report. Then you can make any changes, clean it up, and then you can save it as a new template. So we do give you that option. Search. This is basically the same as the file index was in Appraise-It Classic, but it's much updated and it works so much better and it's so much faster. All of these items here, just like they were in Classic, this is what's called an exclusionary search. So as you type in more information here, it is going to keep narrowing down your search results more and more. So you're going to want to put as much information as you can in here. Not so much that you're not going to find anything, but if you know even partial amounts of this, then you're going to want to enter it in. So maybe put in the county, the city, the census tract, maybe the partial street address. Like if you wanted to see everything that was on Painted Tree Road, and it'll even auto complete for you. So if you wanted to see everything that was on Painted Tree Road, you don't even have to put in the full address, the full street number, just partial in here. Even if I put in Painted, it's going to show me everything that was on, that matches that. So once you get all that information in here as much as you can, you just click on search and it's going to show you all of your results. Now I'm just clicking on search and I only have a couple of items in here. I'm doing a blank search so it shows me everything, but I don't use this for appraising. I usually use it for demoing and for testing. So when I get my results, if I click on them, over here on the right-hand side, it's going to show me the front view photo of the property plus some key information down here that I might need in order to make sure that I have the correct address. And so when I have that, I can double click on it and I can open it up, or I can come down here and click on Open Report. And the search criteria up here, this is completely customizable. So if I don't need city, I can click on the trash can icon next to city and I can get rid of it. But if I want to put it back, I can just come over here and I can select city and I can put it back. But now it's at the end of the list. It's not where I want it. So I can use these up and down arrows here to move city back to where it needs to be, which would be after state, actually before state, and after county. Or if temporarily I don't want to search by city, but I want to search by something else, I can use this pull down, select city and change it to invoice number. And now I can search by invoice number. And then when I'm done, I can go back and change it back to city. So all this is completely customizable. If you're never going to be searching by state, you can get rid of state if you want to. Finally, settings. Settings, if you are a tinkerer, you can come into settings and you can change the settings to your heart's content. But if you are someone who is not that great with computers and you're a little bit shy about that kind of stuff, you may want to only come in here when you have one of our tech support people on the line with you. Finally, new window and exit. New window, exit's real simple. That's just going to exit out of the program. Does the same as if you click on the X in the upper right-hand corner. New window, unlike Appraise-It Classic, you can open up as many instances of Appraise-It Pro, as many program windows of Appraise-It Pro as you wish. So if you got 3 monitors, you could be working on 2 reports at the same time, copy and paste in between them. Maybe have the 3rd monitor for, ancillary stuff, move certain panels over there. I'll show you how to do that later. Or you could, have a browser open and looking at Facebook or whatever you want to do, doing some research. We'll call it research. So you have that option for you. So we're going to flip back over here and we're going to take, what we're going to do first is we need to open up a blank appraisal. So I'm going to open up a default 1004 default template. Remember, I had that little checkbox check, so it's going to add in the suggested forms for me. And this is your editing window. This will look very familiar because it's very similar to Appraise-It Classic, but it also looks very different. It's still a WYSIWYG editor, which means what you see is what you get. All right. So this is still a representation of the form, and you can still type in here just like you would in regular Appraise-It Classic. But you'll notice a couple of things are different. First of all, we'll go over the menuing system up here at the top. This menuing system is called the ribbon bar. It's very similar to what you have probably already seen in programs like Microsoft Office and other programs that are in Windows 10 and Windows 11. But the big changes here in the way that you're going to interact with the program are going to be the panels and the tabbed interface for the active report that you're working on, the active addenda or form that you're working on. Okay, so we have 4 panels here. There's really 5, but there's 4 visible: report, validator, responses, and format. That 5th one is help, and I'll show you that in a little while, but most of you probably aren't going to be using help, so it's not helpful. But if you have anybody who is, learning the ropes of the appraising industry with you, if you have a trainee, then they may find it very helpful. Or if you brought somebody on to help you type reports, they will definitely find it helpful. So we're going to go counterclockwise here. We'll start out with the report panel. And this is probably, if you're going to get anything from this webinar and you're going to pay attention to anything, this is definitely what you want to pay attention to, because this is the single-handedly the biggest difference between Appraise-It Classic and Appraise-It Pro. Really, Appraise-It Classic and Pro are very familiar. They're very similar in a lot of ways. The image manager is the same. The comp manager is the same. Sketching's the same. The mapping programs, all that stuff's the same. But the way that you build a report and when you build it, that's the difference. So we're going to start out with a lot of stuff already pre-filled in here. This is basically the table of contents. And in Appraise-It Classic, what you would do is you would kind of choose from the contents list whatever you wanted to fill it out, and then you'd have to build the report together at the very end of the report when you were ready to deliver it. In Appraise-It Classic, you build it at the beginning and as you go along. All right. So this is not only the contents of the report, it's the order in which those contents show up in the report. So you can change the stuff around. So let's say you like to put the location map right at the beginning of the report. Well, you can click on location map and you can click and drag it up here to the top. Maybe you want to have it right at the very beginning. Well, there you go. Now location maps at the very beginning. Let's say that you are not going to be needing a flood map in this report. Then the name of the game here is to keep everything tidy. So you want to get rid of the flood map because you don't want anything in this listing that in this report panel that's not going to be in the final report. That way, when you come back to this report later on, you know exactly what you sent to your lender or your AMC or whoever the client is. You'll know exactly what you sent them because it'll be right here in the report panel. So there's no need to change things around and build a report at the end. You're going to do it right now. So if I don't need the flood map, I'm going to click on it, click on remove, say yes, and it's gone. Now, maybe I decide, wait a minute, I do need that flood map. So I can come up here to add, and it's going to open up this add remove forms dialog box, and I have a search here. So I can come in here and I can search for flood. There it is, flood map, boom. Now I can double click this and it's just going to add it to the bottom of the list. By the way, this right here is just nothing but a copy of what's over here. So I can click and I can drag this back over. Maybe I'm going to put it right after location map. So you can see I'm just clicking and dragging, let it go, and there it is. Now it's in there. Hit save and close, and then it adds it in. Up here at the top, there's location, and then there's flood. All right, real simple. If you want to add anything else, come in here. Let's say, I don't think we use this anymore, but maybe the COVID addendum. Here's the COVID-19 desktop addendum. If I wanted to put that in there, just click and drag it over. You can also from here change the type of report that this is. So instead of searching for an addenda, I can search primary. I could search condo. And maybe I want to make this a 1073. So if I click and drag the 1073 over, I'm just going to put it right there. Now it's going to tell me adding this form will replace your report's primary form and its dependent reforms. Do you want to continue or do you want to proceed? I'm going to say yes, save and close. And now something kind of magical just happened. It has changed this report into a condo form. I don't have to open up the new one, import it over, do any of that jazz. Everything that has a spot in the new report automatically gets copied over and put where it needs to be. And I've just changed this 1004 because I started it thinking this was a standalone home, but it's not, it's a condo. So I just converted it into a condo. I could have been halfway through well, obviously you wouldn't be halfway through the report when you found out it was a condo, but if you had anything previously in there, you just drop condo form in there and bam, it gets converted over. Real simple. There's some other stuff in here. The one other thing I do want to show you is about renaming different forms. So we have some general photos in here. This is a 3 per page and a 6 per page. So I'll show you the 6 per page here. By the way, notice that when I open that up, it tabs it just like a web browser up here at the top. If I don't want to see it anymore, I just click on X and then it doesn't remove it from the report. I'm not looking at it any longer. But general photos 6 legal, kind of cryptic. I don't really know what that is by just looking at it. So now I can rename it and I could say garage photos 6 PG 3x5. So now I know these are garage photos, 6 per page, 3x5. You can call it whatever you want. That's just the naming convention I use. Click on OK. And now without even looking at it or opening it up, just by glancing at it, I know that this is garage photos, 6 per page, and they're the 3x5 variety. And you'll notice also that I was using this to kind of change the look and the feel of these panels. You can do that, no problem. Now I'm going to go to Validator. Now in Appraise-It Pro, validation, first of all, it's always front and center, where in Appraise-It Classic, you had to select it from the menu and then a pop-up came up. In Appraise-It Pro, the validator is always front and center, and there are 2 types of validation that are happening. There's real-time validation and comprehensive validation. Easiest way to show you real-time validation, if I come up here to state and I type in NC, tab out, it's happy, nothing happens. But if I got a fat finger and I do BC instead and tab out, because B and C are very close to NC, now it turns red because BC is a Canadian province. It is not a US state, so it turns red. If I happen to be down here in the grid, when I notice that I have a hard stop over here, I can double click on that. It'll jump me back to where that particular field is. And now I can change it back. And now when I tab out, it's fine. Nothing's wrong. So as you go along, it's going to be doing, real-time validation on your formatting, on some math values, dependence, things like that. Now, when I'm done with the report, I want to do a comprehensive validation, just like you did in Classic. And you'll want to wait until you're done with the report, because if I do a comprehensive validation right now, it's going to freak out. All these fields are going to turn red, telling me that I've missed things. So only do this when you get to the end of the actual report. And to do that, I would just click on the validate button here. Now, there is this rule set pull down here. You are going to want to make sure that you are checking your report using the correct rule set. There are 2 of them, UCDP and FHA. Now this may change later on, but for right now, those are the 2. UCDP is the standard UAD rule set. FHA is of course the FHA rule set. They are very, 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 very similar to each other. There's only a couple of small differences, but you're going to want to make sure you're using the right one. And remember, this is going to be remembered from one report to another. So make sure that you use the correct rule set. Okay, so if you start a new report and it is a FHA, make sure you say FHA. If you come back in here with another report and that one's going to be regular UAD, make sure you switch it back. So always be checking that. Over here on the right are the responses. This is one of my favorite things about Appraise-It Pro. I think that the way that responses were implemented is just so much better and it's so much easier to use. Best way to show you these is going to be in the city field. So I've already made some responses here. If I want to use them, it's just as easy as grabbing my mouse, coming over here and double clicking on Belmont and boom, now it's in there. Easy. But there's some other ways I can do it as well. I can hit F2 on my keyboard and I can use my up and down arrow keys to select it from a list. Or I can do my favorite way of doing it, which would be type in the first few letters. It's going to autofill, tab out, boom. Easy, it's done. And you can see that if you were to set up all of your responses, you could really start burning through the first few pages of the report very quickly. And remember, responses can be up to and including paragraphs of text. It doesn't have to be just a one-word answer or a one-word response like it is here in the city field. Now, let's say I want to add something. So all of these over here, these are suburbs of Charlotte, which is where I live. So I want to actually put the city of Charlotte in there. So I'm going to type in Charlotte. And now I want to add that as a response. So I can click on Manage Responses, the little green plus again. I could give it a title. That's usually only reserved for, if you're doing a couple of paragraphs or a couple of sentences, you'll want to give it a title, something a little bit more succinct. However, it's completely optional. One word responses, it's not really necessary. But I might want to assign it an F key, just like you did in Appraise-It Classic. We don't have the F key bar up at the top, but you can still assign things to F keys. So if I want to make this F4, there I got it. Click Save, click Close, and now Charlotte is assigned to F4. So now I can come into this field, hit F4 on my keyboard, and it's going to fill in Charlotte for me automatically. Finally, down here at the bottom is your format panel. This is basically the UAD panel that you are familiar with from Appraise-It Classic. If you are in a non-formatted field like I am right now, the city field doesn't have any formatting rules, then that field is just light blue. And you can tell that because the format panel is just going to show you a color key of what all of these different colors mean. Appraise-It Classic is way more colorful than Appraise-It Pro is way more colorful than Appraise-It Classic was. So I can see what all these different colors mean. But when I do go into a field that is formatted, then let's do view. I click on that. This is now going to turn into the UAD helper. And it works just the same as it did in Appraise-It Classic. I can do overall view, overall rating type beneficial. View type, we'll call it a water view. And maybe I'm going to do a secondary one, which is a park view. Hit apply, and then it's going to put in the UAD formatting for me. And just like you could in Appraise-It Classic and Appraise-It Pro, you can type directly into the field. So if you do the formatting correctly, WTR semicolon PRK, it is fine with it. But if I were to do something like this, well, in this case, it's not going to do it, but this would generally turn red. I think it's just reading it because that's basically, I can just put some additional view descriptions in. But if you got this wrong, it would turn red for you. Okay. And of course, you have apply, you have clear, same as subject, just like you did in Appraise-It Classic. Now, up here at the top is the menuing system. This is called the ribbon bar. It's a little bit different than it was in Appraise-It Classic, but the concepts are still the same. So if you go to the home menu, instead of there being a long list of text that falls down, you have these icons up here. It makes it a little bit easier to see. It looks a little bit more visually appealing. We have home, edit, view. I think the view menu is a little bit different here. Reset to default. If you had made some changes to the report panels here, you can always click on reset to default and it'll put everything back to factory settings. Services, I think this was in Appraise-It Classic. Services are online tools. So street maps, flood maps, Profit.ai, market analysis service. Tools are non-internet, like they're built in, they're right on your local computer. So comp manager, image manager, lender, neighborhoods, all of these things, not changed from Appraise-It Classic. I have a whole video on the adjustment sensitivity analysis. This is a really cool thing that can do some graphs and help you with doing your adjustments more accurately. If you're interested in that, you can go to YouTube and type in SFREP adjustments sensitivity analysis and you'll find the video for that. Or you can just go to youtube.com/SFREP. It's on our YouTube site as well. And then Apex, Sketch-It, Sketch 32. Sketch-It, of course, unchanged. So is Sketch 32. Apex, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a secret. We are working on a deal, possibly. It's not set in stone yet with Apex. So you might get access to this coming soon. We'll see. Depends on your level of Appraise-It subscription that you have, but this may be coming. I'll just leave it there. Also under orders, we have create Mismo, upload to Appraise Report, or create ENV file, Total Connect. Support, this is where you can come to get help. And I will point out, there are two little email things here. Send feedback will email, and that'll send it out to like management. That's if you have a suggestion or have a problem, you can click here on this send feedback and someone will get back to you fairly quickly. If you have a technical issue, you're going to want to click on email. That way, someone will get back to you very quickly. You can also do chat from here as well. And then all of our social media and blog stuff is over here on the right-hand side. The one last thing I do want to show you guys, and then we'll open it up for questions. If nobody has any questions, we will call it a weekend. Is going to be down here in the lower right corner. This is going to be your services. So if you click on this, right now everything is green, but if I click on it, it's going to open up a web page, and this web page will give me the status of all of our online services. So if you notice that the mapping is really slow or it's not working or something like that, you can just glance down here, and if this is green, that means that everything's cool and kosher. If this is yellow or red, that means we're having some problems with it. You can click on it, and then you can click on, and it'll tell you what's having a problem. And if you click on that, it'll give you some more information via a website. All right. Okay. So remember, if you have any questions and you're watching this video after the fact, all you got to do is send me an email, training@sfrep.com. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. But remember, I'm going to be slower. So if you need immediate assistance, you're going to want to email tech support, and that's going to be tech@sfrep.com. Or, of course, you can call them 7 days a week, 800-644-4051. They're usually around from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern time. That covers the West Coast till 5 p.m. All right. Well, I don't have any questions. You guys don't have any questions. I definitely don't have any questions. I hope you guys have a great rest of your work week, depending upon if you work on the weekends or not. Hope you have, hope you give Appraise-It Pro a try. I think you guys will really like it. And remember, there's no reason not to. It is not going to prevent you from using Appraise-It Classic. So you might as well just go ahead and contact our sales department, 800-523-0872, or sales@sfrep.com, or call our tech support, or email me. It doesn't matter. Contact somebody at Safari P. We will add it to your account. You can then download Appraise-It Pro and install it and start to get to know it. And if you need assistance with it, contact our tech support. They will be happy to be patient and take time to help you get all set up with it. Hope all of you have a great rest of your day. Thank you for joining me, and we will see you next time.